Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. I don't know which one is a lady, which one is a gentleman, but hello. Let's see, there's a few of you guys here. Just have a look. I want to try to get a feel for the view count inside of you. I find it quite funny. It's like 60 people that are like, yeah, we want a workshop. Workshop starts, 7 people. Lovely. The thing is, I don't know if it counts people that don't have accounts. I'm not sure. That's my meme. Going around stealing my meme. How dare you? Oh, that's fine though.
Hello, so on Discord, we hear you first, and then like a second later.
Yeah, I suggest you mute the sound on Twitch, otherwise it is going to be a bit of a confusing. And I'll give it about 6 more minutes for people to join, because people are people. Justin, not talking about you, I'm talking about my moderators. We're on Discord. So if I speak, they hear it a second later again on Twitch. It's kind of annoying.
Yep.
Um, yeah. All right, so just to put it into context, we will have Dominic and Verona as moderators. They will be keeping an eye on your questions or comments that you make during the stream, and they will keep me up to date on that. So if there is something that you guys are wondering and I haven't quite explained it yet, then we'll look at it afterwards. Yeah. How long are these workshops normally going for? Uh, that depends, but for your correction thing, generally the way we've done it before is if a workshop is happening, it takes priority. But it's completely up to you. If you want to leave and then come back, you can. I don't think it will be that bad. Also, whoever you're marking or is marking you, they can see that a workshop is happening and it is about the learning, and I'm sure they can survive with an hour without an extra point. Otherwise, I'll bite them. I don't know. I honestly feel like people are like, hey, workshop, and they're like, workshop. You have to watch stuff. It's like we're 9 people. If I was on campus, I would have chased all of you guys onto 5th floor. We have done that before. Scaring them. Also, I heard you guys are giving everybody a hard time. Why are you being so mean to everyone? And by everyone, I mean Dominique and Lani. Why them? Because you don't. That's my answer. And if you use your imagination really, really hard, this will look like them. That's what I'm using. Okay, I suppose we're gonna start. So I've got 4 topics here. Obviously not memes. Yeah, sure. Okay, anyway, so I got the 4 topics: loops, mains, pointers, and variables. I think that's what we will cover. Mains I'll leave for later, which I'm surprised the one person who asked a question about it isn't here. Anyway, so we have all of these. Which one would you guys like to start with first? I'll leave that up to you. Ah, that hurt. Okay, pointers, loops, what else? I need more data to choose. Okay, we have 2 for pointers. Anybody else? 3 for pointers. Okay, I think that should be fine. What do you guys think? Dominique, Mira, pointers? Mira. Verona, pointers?
Yes, call me a mirror.
Yes, I did.
Pointer sounds good. I think it's a good place to
Okay,
start.
cool.
Yeah.
So here's a pointer, be better. That was a bad joke. Alright. So the important thing to remember is that pointers, all they're doing is are people struggling to create accounts? Maybe that's why. I don't know. I know Hugo was struggling. I don't know if he's here, but I know he was struggling. That's fine. Alright, anyway, so the important thing to remember about a pointer is all it's doing is referencing a spot in memory. There's no other like fanciness about it. Okay, what do you think I should just wait like another couple of minutes? Alright, tell you what, let's wait a couple of minutes. You'll have to tell them to not worry about verifying accounts. Maybe next time I'll just do it to YouTube instead of Twitch. I've heard that YouTube gives other problems. Yeah, see, that is a problem if you can't use chat. And you can't ask questions unless you ask, I don't know. Figure that out later. Okay. Alright, well, I'll put the meme back. And then we'll just wait a couple of more minutes. Just so that anyone who joins the stream can see that a certain somebody whose name I won't mention, Sequel, took my meme and posted it on random. Got my eyes on you.
trying to get my pod to join. But they're taking a while.
I'm seeing, yeah, it's complaining about attempting to create accounts too quickly. I think it's because of the mass influx of people creating accounts on the same network.
I think so. I haven't responded on stuff, so
Should I maybe see if we can get it to work on YouTube? 'Cause everyone has a YouTube account.
we can moderate manually, as in we'll just copy.
Yeah, as far as I know, YouTube has moderators as well.
Okay.
I see something. No, I can't change it now on here without ending the stream. Hmm. Because like if it's YouTube, everyone has an account because of a student email address, so it's not like it's an issue.
Yeah, I've never used it, so I don't know what that would look like. I don't think you.
It will look pretty much like Twitch. Just thought Twitch would be easier because I know how to use it to a degree.
Yeah. So,
What is the likelihood of using C in the workplace? If you're doing embedded systems or if you're doing robotics, very likely. Those kind of things you would be looking at assembly C. Arduinos use a modified C. Yeah, so there is place for it. Just not sure how many places in South Africa with our sponsors are doing C. But also, one more thing to realize is a lot of companies will associate C and C++ as just C. And then they'll be like, yeah, we're doing C code. And you look at it, it's like, but that's C++. And I'll be like, yeah, it's C code. And I'll be like, but no. Just like this meme. Well, yes, but no, you know? So, good times. I think it's safe to say the stream's going to start a little bit later because of everyone still trying to join. Let me make a new meme. Dolphin says, can you guys look at a Slack channel for questions and then talk to me on Discord? Tom? Rona?
sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, we can look at Slack.
All
on the
right.
question channel.
Yeah, okay, guys. So then you'll post it into the questions channel and then they will do the stuff and keep an eye on you and
Cool. I'm
keep me up
just
to
not
date.
on the bootcamp Slack.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm entirely sure how to add you. Do you have a student? Bruno?
Sorry, what is that?
Seeing a message in Discord.
Yeah. I'm a student. I don't.
Crap.
No, I only have student.
Shit. Okay. I think then, unless we can add this super quick, maybe try.
Will we receive the results of our exams? Or is it hush hush? Are my memes not making it clear to you guys what your exam marks are? Please not. Why is it still very important for us to know C even though it's an old language? Okay, so if you know C, you understand the closest language to machine languages as to how something works, right? So things like pointers, memory management, and all of that is lost when doing other languages are that have garbage collectors, such as Java, C Sharp, Python, JavaScript, Ruby, um, to some degree Rust as well. So yeah. Stay in your daydreams, okay. We'll see about releasing the marks specifically for you. Just you. Because you asked so nicely.
There was a point made about Google Meets. Don't do that. If we do it as a conference, can we get to 50 people? No.
Can someone logged in Twitch inform the presenter that we can hear him? Yeah, I'm aware you can hear me.
Me too.
At no point in time was the question, can you hear me?
You guys are very inventive with your faces.
What language is most commonly used for encryption? I don't think there is a language that is most commonly used for encryption. Because it's pretty much just an algorithm, right? It's like um, I mean, essentially, all you're doing is like you'll have a char x, right? And now I'm saying x is equal to b, and then I resulting character is going to be let's say that, right? So if we just include so if I do something like that, right? And then I can go into CD That should be fun. So you see there, I'm getting like a random. Oh, wait, that's a bit hard to see. Give it a second. Okay. So this character here is a bit of a strange one. It just looks like a random thing with a question mark. If I do this and I pipe it into cat-e, you'll see it gives me some random m dash upper thing. What that means is it's not printable. It is a value that we can't physically see. So if I do a cast and I make it an integer that we can kind of figure out what it is, we get an answer of -1, which means I have gone too far. Try x. So if we convert x to an integer, will that work? Okay. Maybe that's why. Well, I am inverting it. Okay, just so you know, bit shifting is painful. You can ask anyone.
Burn it with fire.
Burn it with fire. Like it's 0. Is it because I'm comparing? No, it's because I'm setting it. No? Is it? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. So if I know if I do this one, I will get some value. Or not. Why am I getting value? Primary setting result x31 should be more or less. I say bit shifting, painful, and weird. No, it's not C that's confusing. It's bit shifting that's confusing. You go. For example, if I do that, I still get that. That's the part that I'm confused about. It's like it's not recompiling properly. Well, refair. There we go. There's int min, for instance, using bit shifting. Alright. So then, like, if you had something like that, then you can do your addition, which I think is it that this is to XOR, this is to compare, and this is to add. No. This is all from the question about what was it about again? Encryption. What language would you use? It's essentially this. It's a whole bunch of bit shifting and whatnot, and then comparing the values between it. So remember, you can never take a result that has been encrypted and send it back to be unencrypted necessarily. The way encryption hashing works is once you have the key, yeah, it doesn't say. Anyway, once you have the key, you can then throw a bunch of words at it until it matches. So if, yeah, and that's pretty much how it works. Does that make sense? I hope. How many people are here? Let's have a look at that. I think a lot of the people that are here haven't verified yet. I like how someone actually asked on Slack now who asked about bit shifting. Alright, so this actually is more than 7. It's just, I think it's 7 that I've registered properly. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go into it. Don't worry about this. I'm gonna delete that. It's not something you ever need to worry about. You guys can just, for one last moment, just look at this lovely meme about all this stuff. Okay, maybe not. All right, so pointers. Pointers is all it's doing is referencing. All it's doing is referencing to a spot in memory that keeps track of a variable, right? Now, a pointer holds one value. The value next to it is another pointer. The value next to it is another pointer. All right, so one of the easiest ways to remember it is if we do something like this, all right? So let's say all of this is a memory block. Okay. Now I go and I say char star string is equal to, let's say I do that. All right. Now I've told the system I want to reserve 12 spots of memory. Okay, for the size of a char to be put into a char string. Now what it'll do is it'll have a look at my memory section, which is all these hashes, and it'll be like, oh, okay, cool. I want to do this one, right? So now I've said from that particular point is where my point is going to start. So then it goes and it assigns to plus. And then plus will follow through to the rest of the string. Now there is no definitive way to say it will always be in order, because you don't know if let's say, like I said, I want 12, right? So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes, oh cool, this is the only spot that I have for 4, and then it might go here 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? It might end up doing that. You don't know, because we can't physically see the memory blocky things, but it's what it does. Now, the reason why we use malloc is because it's memory allocation, right? We're telling the program that I need to reserve X amount of space in order to store a variable that I can move around and use. Okay. Um, I'll get into that now. All right. So that is essentially the gist of it. Like, you assign it to a variable, you can now do stuff to it. Everything that has a star in front of it is, as you know, a pointer. Pointers can be used in different ways. So you can use a pointer to store a variable, right? So I can say get the value of p, and then I want to do that. Oh shit. Get value of integer star p, right? And then I say p is equal to 42, right? So I go and I do something like that. And now the way that this works is it works without the, no, I'm in the wrong folder. That makes sense. Yeah, that's fine. So then I get the value 42. Now the way this works is I'm saying online, so I write here, I'm passing through the address of my integer to assign its value. So it's basically taking a stack allocated. Oh, wait, let me get that out of the way. It's taking a stack allocated integer within the scope of main, passing it by address into a function that wants it dereferenced, assigning the value, that way you know, and it's assigning the value back out. Now that might seem very confusing, and I agree with you, but the more you do it, the more it just makes sense, and you kind of get used to it. So instead of having to return a value, right? Let's say we wanted to assign two values, right? And I want to do a char star star x. So here it's going to be my string. So I pass it like that. All right. And then in here, a good thing to do is always check if your pointers. So with a double star, I'm saying this is a pointed value. Okay. So that would be an array. I'll get into how pointers and arrays are practically the same thing. So if we don't have x, then we want to assign the memory to x. All right. Now, I can't do this. That won't work. I wish it did, but it doesn't work. I'll give the chat about 3 minutes to write something either in Slack on questions or something about why they think it won't work. Just want to get a general idea. No, not the main. This particular part. Assigning the memory and then making it equal a string. It will lead up to explaining how pointers work. I promise. Yes and no. Like the new line character is sort of like a mix in between being considered. It's all up to how you're using your string. Alright. Okay, so the value of x, right? It's pointing to something. We'll have an address. Not necessarily. It's just a principal character that terminal knows how to interpret. Yes and no. To the question about holding the address, I'll show you how it works now. So, remember what I said you about all of this. Okay, so if I go here and I say our string is starting there, I'm just going to do that, right? So in a perfect world, this is the memory spot that we got. Now, each block, so I'll do this to make it easier. So each one of those blocks holds a value. Okay, a single value. Hello world is 13 values. Make it easier? Question mark? Yes. So you can see here, I've got 13 characters in the word hello world. Now, this is considered a string literal. It's only on the stack. Now, you can't really assign stack to pointers as a solid thing like this, especially when you're working with multiple blocks. Because what it will try and do is it's going to try and take this stack allocated thing and force it into this memory block, which it doesn't have control of. So if I try to do that, yeah, that's going to complain. So if I try to do this, I'll still get 42, which is fine. Is it fine to do it like that and then try to change it? Yeah. And then we can go to printf as new line. I can say string. Wow, you see it's blank. It doesn't complain about it not existing. It's just blank. All right. So now, essentially, this memory address wasn't really changed. Like I said, I can't really put it in there. I'm not sure if that person is in the Twitch chat, but I mentioned the fact that you can't really use Ubuntu because it behaves differently between Mac, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora. They all behave differently with their compilers. So this might just be um, this particular Debian version that I'm working with behaving differently as well. Generally, this would the compiler will complain about doing this. It'll say, "Hey, you can't do that." But the way it actually works is I can do that. Yes, I'm not doing it to norm. Bite me. I went through it for 2 years or a year. Okay. So while I is less than the string then alpha x. Ah, you can do it that way if you really want to. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to use indexing, which in my opinion is better than and more superior than any other method. Um, so then we're going to say that, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to say the x of I is equal to the ox of I, and then I will increment I. What is that complaining about? There we go. Okay. So if I run this now, why is it not working? What am I doing wrong? What am I complaining about? Is it because of that? It is because of that. Yeah, I'm not actually assigning that particular value. Or the pointed value. I was doing it in scope. No? Yes? That should work. Just so you know, pointers never get easy. They're fine, they just don't get easy. Let's assume in this case that happens. Facts, yeah. Facts. So we have the percentage of x equal to that number. So I know, most likely if I do this. Segfault. Yay, segfault. Yeah, it wasn't making that string. We were never getting into that function. It was supposed to segfault long ago. Yay, more segfaults. So who can think why it's segfaulting? Indexing. Yeah, so okay, so indexing works if you have an array. An array is just a bunch of blocks, right? That starts at 0. So all you're doing is saying like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah blah blah. And when you are indexing, you're telling it which part of the array that you're looking for, each one of those blocks. Adjust the value of x. Why would that not work? Star x? Not necessarily. I don't really think that'll work in this case. I think it might be this. No, it's not that. Alright. Actually, this is a good point. So you can use something called LLDB. While we here, might as well show you this. Doesn't the pointer need to? Doesn't the pointer need to what? Need more context. Okay, anyway. So you can use something called LLDB, which you'll pass through that need to install LLDB. Apparently, I did not do that. Okay. That shouldn't take too long to install. What LLDB will do, it will allow us to how do I say it? It will allow us to why is my brain not working? Yes, debug, thank you. And we can actually break through and set breakpoints and do a whole bunch of things to actually get through the code, right? So if I do that, it's gonna set the targets and create the executable set. Then I just press the lovely button. Well, I type in run and I press enter. It's gonna launch and it's gonna complain, or it's gonna be happy. I have seen once that LLDB has actually made a program work more than it was supposed to. Is it maybe here? Confused. Could be going further than it needs to. Because it looks like I'm infinite looping. No. I don't know. It just instantly says no. Do you think it might be that? Is that what you're talking about earlier, Dolphin? You might be right. No. In case you're wondering, I have lots of brain fog. I am actually sick. Well, that's a different story. Because it would be the pointed value of x, because we're changing the pointed value of x. So maybe what I need to do is assign it to a new x, and then make this new x, and then say the value of x is equal to new x. That could work. There we go. I was being stupid. Okay. And there we have it. So the main thing was it was the way I was trying to manipulate this value. I wasn't quite doing it correctly. There's another way you can do this, which I don't want to get into. Let's post increment. Actually, yeah, let's do it. Post increment and pre-increment. That's good to know. So in terms of the way I'm doing this while loop, it is actually norm correct as long as it's only one line. But what I can do is I can put plus plus here. Right? And then what that'll do is it'll actually increase my I value after the while loop is run. So if I do that, or not, I thought I do wrong. Is it? No, minus minus, plus plus, minus minus. It does weird things. If I make it -1, it should work. And one, and then pre-increment. Yeah, that should work. I don't know. Yeah, okay, that works. We'll get there. Loops are weird, especially when doing it that way. I would recommend if you want to do a post increment, you do it that way. Right at the last instruction that you can find. That's also complaining. Why is plus plus complaining? Oh yeah, because it's -1. That's an instant zero. Doesn't exist. Or not. Fuck it. Loops. They're great. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Whatever. Loops can just go die in a hole. I don't know. We'll stick to that way. Okay. Um. No, I don't wanna. I don't wanna increment new x as well because essentially what I'm gonna say is new x at value I, which is now 2, is going to become. So I'm saying new x is I, and then when I go to ox, where the value is 2, then ox is now going to become value of 3 after it loops. So we're going to end up skipping over the loop in like a step matter instead of equally. Okay, anyway. So okay, that'll work. So with the pointed string thing, right? So now I have this value in string. So if I had to go to string and I want to change this to another, well, just let's go with dog. Dog are cool. What's that? 13? Please be 13. Ha! I can count. Okay. So string equals doggo cool. Ignore the grammar part. I needed it to be 13. And now if I had to go and do this and run it, there we have it, doggo cool. Right? Because it's within the scope. If I take that out and do that, we get doggo. Why is this a bad idea? Cats are evil monsters that only want you to feed them. And that's my opinion. You can bite me for it. I don't mind. There's only one thing I know about a cat is you throw a catnip at it and it'll be happy. Alright, so here we have this value of dog, which I have assigned to that pointer, and it is happy, which is weird. I think on the Mac compiler, it doesn't allow you to assign variables directly. You have to do it individually, correct? Yeah, I'm sure that's how it works.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I'm really not sure exactly which compiler I'm using. Let's have a look here. Yeah, there's one specifically for Debian. Yeah, it's all weird. I love it when a compiler does things that you don't want them to. Okay, whatevs. Mm. Okay, so generally, you're not supposed to be able to get this to work. Like doing this whole thing. It's working, but you're not supposed to. The way. Oh, wait. What's that? Standard equals C99? No. Ooh, small letter C. Will that break it? Nope. Why is this compiler being weird? Is it C99? Maybe I'll make that 2. Hmm. All right. So here's what you need to know. This thing does not work on Mac. This is not supposed to, unless they changed it on there as well with later updates. Generally, you can't assign a stack allocated string to a pointed value. Well, you're not supposed to be able to change it. One of the functions I think you would be working on today is called string copy. Slow learners are lost. Don't worry, I'm just as lost because the system is being smart for once. Alright. Yeah. Alright. So the person who said they are lost, can you elaborate on why you are lost? So we can work from there. I saw in the chat someone asked if I do YouTube tutorials. No, I do not. How do you make a string of a string? What do you mean by how do I make a string of a string? Because generally what you'll do, let's say new string, you'll go string copy, your new string, because I think that's it. Oh no, it doesn't do that. That's string n. Okay. String copy is not the one on here. String. Oh, S should be in string. String. Oh, okay. So that makes more sense to that question. So you'll do that similar in a thingy, a function. So what you're going to do is you're returning a pointer to where you are. So string. Add, then you'll have your I. Your j is equal to 0. And then you'll go while. Actually, yeah, let me do it that way. Confuse people even more. I like confusing people. If the value of S1 is equal to the value of S2, I'll do a while. Now we need an integer for that one. Did the person get back to Trillion will not be there later? Oh, yeah, if you have a question, ask now. Oh, string. No, it was for someone asked that question. They said char star ft string char star string. Why can't I use picture? Or can't I use picture? What do you mean? I'm so confused by that question. Besides printf. Oh, no, I'm using printf due to the fact that I don't want to pull my libft into here and use that, which I can if you guys want me to. I mean, make more work for me, it's fine. I do need those. Do it, please, for science. Yeah. Okay, cool. Illuminati. What's the difference between printf and write? Well, printf uses write at the end of the day, but printf allows you to modify your string buffer to print out the values that you want. So where our standard put string and whatnot can only do a single string, yeah, basically. And we will return something. I don't know, some bullshit like that. All right. All right. Then we just gotta include the header. Essentially, that would be a bullshit way of doing string. There's no real. Yes, you gotta learn what makes C tick. If you learn what makes C tick, you can do something like this, which helps you print memory addresses, or print memory in general. So what I mean by that, actually, let me show you that. This is just extra fun. Don't freak out about it, please. I want to takes in a void address, yeah. Void address and size, yeah. Okay, so go hello, and this is going to equal hello Hugo. Now you guys can all beat up Hugo because I'm. Hugo, you say that, but just watch. No, it's only about 14, 15, 13. All right. I think there was at one point I mentioned we might do linking. This is high level linking. Don't worry too much about it. I'm sorry for people that I am going over your heads for a moment. I'll get back to you, I promise. Is it really going to do that to me now? Okay, fine. Come on a little bit. See. Why is LD freaking out? What is it is like that. It was lying to me. I will explain on. Okay, so either this will segfault or it'll work. Oh no, okay, it works. There you go. Look at that. That is a better way to print out memory than just an address. Because you can physically see what's in your memory block. So I can extend this to 256. And there we have more. So remember what I said, it's just a whole bunch of like spots in memory, basically. This is a good way to visualize it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's correct, it's just a good way to visualize it. So you can see I've got 48 and 65, which is H and E. And I have 60 and 60, which is L and L. Then I have 6F, which is O. 20 is a space. And then we go on again. If anyone's wondering, these numbers are in hex. So if I man ASCII, yeah, hex code, you'll see it's all in just these single 2-digit lines, basically. Oh gosh, don't scroll up. But yeah, essentially that's where it is. You can find it all there for your own convenience. Okay, let's go back to basic pointer again. For my lovely little people who are lost, also known as Dominique. Okay.
Oi. No, I agree. I mean, I am perpetually.
Proposals, and yeah, that is the proposed list, and it's more or less what we're going to go through, which is why I said this might take longer for those people who are asking, and also stream started longer later because of people joining later, due to the whole Twitch sign up thing. I don't even think that was possible, but I suppose it prevents botting, which is fine. Okay, so barebone basics, a pointer points to a spot in memory, and then that spot will also be able to point to another spot, right? And that allows us to do something like this. So we can say in our memory block, we're starting here, and then the following information comes through here. Now you can also do a pointer to a pointer, right? And then what that'll do is it'll have this value. Then I'll remove all of this and replace it back with, where's my hash key again? There it is. And now let's say it points to here, right? I'm going to make that a minus to say, to reference where it's pointing to. And then for the rest of these blocks, now we have a different value. Okay, so that's a pointer to a pointer. Don't worry too much about that, but it's essentially how it works. All you're doing is you're pointing to other spots in memory where you're trying to reference a value. Because once again, a pointer just stores a value, and the easiest way for a human to understand it is it's just a number. So your numbers can range based on the size and what operating system you're working with. So if you're working with a 32-bit system, your maximum value is, fuck, I can't remember. Let's just arbitrarily say 100. Okay, it's not 100. It's larger than an int max. It's like a Verona, Dominic, can you remember the value? That's massive. It
Of
uses
int
information I
max.
don't really pay attention to. Yeah, what's the maximum value on a 32-bit system?
Uh,
Oh, two.
Like,
It's 2147.
yeah, that's the standard max integer. That's why I said, what's the
Yeah.
maximum number that you can get? I think it's a long or something.
Long, long. They go long, long.
But isn't that 64-bit though? Like,
Oh,
it's very. I don't know. I've worked with 64-bit systems for like the last. I don't know how long. I've forgotten what the numbers are. Either way, it can hold a certain number in its spot. Dumb question alert, maybe this is dumb, but before writing code was to ensure that you get a clear vision of what should go into your program rather than spinning hours on Google Drive. Oh, that's not a dumb question. Um, hmm, I'll get to that in a moment. We're on big numbers. So with a big number, it's there's a certain limit that it can hold, right? Before it'll complain about an overflow or something that the system can't handle. It's also got to do or something called an Indian. You get a big Indian and a little Indian, and that's the way your computer handles your numbers. Don't freak out too much about that. I still don't understand it. I just know how it works, more or less. Um, so each of these blocks can hold a spot, right? So technically speaking, if I did that and I also go and I say int, ooh, I see the stream froze for a moment. Okay. If I do 1 shifted by 63, please answer this question. I will answer it in a moment. I promise. Okay, so if I do something absurd like that, first of all, the compiler will complain. I don't need that. So you can see there, it complains about the overflow. Now the overflow is mostly got to do with the long to an int. Okay, but it's just a warning. It will do nothing because I haven't told it to print out anything. Because people are so obsessed with me using my liberty. I can't use my fancy printfs. And we want to point to the value that's inside of it. And then we'll GCC exercise C dash L LFT dash I. Okay, don't worry about how I'm compiling this. This is like stuff you do when you're in the course. Why is it not up with that? So you say I'm going to get the value -1 because you can't quite shove that into there. It's just the way so that we can get rid of that percentage. Blah, blah. All right, so you see there we have the value of -1, which is technically not correct. One reason why I'm not going to make it a long is I don't have a put long because I never needed one. A lot of the stuff you end up just writing because you need to. There's no. It's like common functions that you would actually use, so you would write your functions based on that, so you can actually do that. Okay, so let's say we, Dominic, give me a question. Like, what kind of question would we want to break down? Let's answer that for the sausage.
Originally proposed, or
Well, the question was, how do you break down something before it goes into your program? So before you even start writing code, you get a question. How would you Like
Okay,
start breaking it down.
everyone's done first bus. That's a good example.
Okay, first bus. All right. So first bus tells you, it gives you all the instructions, right? It says you need to write a thingy from a loop from whatever number to whatever number that does a thing. Yes, I am the excellent at explaining. I am the best. No one is better, especially when it comes to questions. In case anyone's wondering, that was a terrible example. So what it tells us is that an I, for any number that is divisible by 3, yes. Okay, I'll get back. Okay, so you have a number that is divisible by 3, which is fizz, or I that is divisible by 5. I'm using divisible for a reason. I'll explain now. Buzz, and then for 15 is fizzbuzz. Now, the main reason why I was saying divisible is because I think that's a term that they use that goes into or whatnot. So when you divide in, this kind of falls into the integer things. This is just some pre-knowledge. So we have int x, which is equal to 12 divided by 5. That'll give us a response of 2. Some people are really having flashbacks about fizzbuzz. Okay, so then we have x is equal to 12 divided by 5, and that will bring us back to, if we actually said, instead of that, if we said 12 mod 5, right? Term modulo, yeah, modular, whatever. You know what I'm saying in English with the words. But if it makes you happy, I'll say modulo. I feel like you're late to this. I'm sick. Anyway, so if we say 12 mod by 5, we'll also get 2, right? That makes sense to me. This 5 will go into it twice and come back with 10 or 2. Cool. So if we had to do a comparison of it, what we'll actually have is 2.2 as a result, if we had to somehow concatenate all this stuff. Okay, anyway. So that's just something that's an operator thing that once you understand how to do, you can do it. So what it tells us is, I believe, let's create the function for it. So we know we need a function called fizzbuzz. I think they gives it to you, and then we have the end value. So end value mean in terms of mathematics, it's generally that's, I think math and physics uses it a lot. It's just a value that you want to end up like stopping at. So you're saying up until a maximum of like 7, right? Um, how do I say it? Let me think. Okay, so let's say the question of fizzbuzz. Let me just start over. I need my brain to catch up to my mouth. So fizzbuzz, we take an X amount of numbers, or in this case, n amount of numbers, and if it is modulo by 3, we print out fizz. If it's modulo by 5, we'll do buzz. If it's modulo by 15, we do fizzbuzz. Okay, it's a simple interview question that's actually asked quite a bit. Depending on what language you use, you can do it in very funky, awesome ways. Like this, in JavaScript, you can do it in 3 lines. You can probably do the same in C# and Java. But anyway, okay. So now you know what you need to do. Yes, so I realized afterwards that 12 was not the best example. But it's okay. Then we'll figure that out later. Okay, so what you know is you're gonna need a while loop, right? And a while loop always requires, let me just do it norm, always requires you to have something to keep as a counter. All right, and then we know we're gonna do that I is less than n. But now there's one little strange issue to this, is that you actually want to start I at 1 and do less equal to n instead of just less than n. Because you don't really care about the value 0. Most of the time FizzBuzz starts at 1. Okay. So now the best thing to do is just make sure that you're iterating properly. So what we can do is we'll do ft put number of I, and then ft put a char of new line. Okay, you need help understanding with the loop. All right. So all this is doing is it's performing a check, right? Every time that it repeats itself, learn how to use it properly. Anytime that you need to iterate over something, use a while loop. Like if you need to do a calculation, index over whole string to print that string to the terminal, because you need to do it character by character, because unless you want to be like Hugo and use string length, I don't recommend. If you don't understand write properly, rather do it with while loop. I'll show you different ways of doing it just now. Okay, anyway. So here we go, we've started I and we've said less than equal to n. So in this case, I'm going to call FizzBuzz and I'm going to say 10. Now for those of you that have noticed what the problem is, good for you. Those of you that haven't, I will get into the problem. Run my GCC, run my edit out. I'm infinitely printing out 1. Like it's not going to stop. And that's because this value never evaluates to 0. Okay. So interesting fact, in C, you're doing a while statement is true, so repeating it. Yes, that is pretty much true. But when a value equates to a 0 in an if statement or a while statement, that is false, right? And if it is anything else, except for I think -1, I might be wrong, will equal true. But generally it's a 1. I say generally because that value can change. So in this case, I, which is 1, is less than 10. So it will always be considered true. So we never actually move out of that loop. You are correct. I do need to increment. So if I go and I do that, I will now be able to exit the loop. Okay. So one thing I like to do is always start off small. Don't jump straight to the end. Start off small and build your way into what you need to do for your question. So there we go. Now we have 1 to 10. We just simply worked our way through it, starting lower and moving our way through it. Rather work in small little blocks than trying to devour the entire project in one bite. You're gonna miss out a lot of things. Make sense? I hope. But I mean, then from that point now you can start doing all your checks. So you can say if 0, then do a thing. Next, let's not do an else. We'll just do a fi modular 5. Well, 6 is a terrible example. Should you use the read function? Um, why? Why do you want to use the read function? Edwards, why doesn't it make sense? You need to explain. I need to understand more about what you don't understand about what I said. As confusing as that sounds. Okay. Edwards. Does the while get bigger with context? Yes, it can, and that all depends on how you're doing it. What is the body of put number? Well, um, I'll get there, I guess. I'll show you just now. Okay, so I left this broken for reasons, right? And that reason was, it's like, okay, cool, we know I3, I5, and then that fails, right? That section is currently what is failing most of it, up until like 5 and 10. Um, so yeah, so now I've gone and I've added a bit more code into. I'll get into post and pre-increment again in a moment. Oh, so many things coming through. Okay. All right, so here we go. We have this whole situation. Now we know that it's wrong. We've printed it out, and we're like, okay, cool. This doesn't make sense to us. We need to fix something. And then we go back and we fix it. We work in small little increments until we have it fully working at the end of the whole situation. If that makes sense to who was it? Who asked that question? Never remember who asked the question. I don't. There's a lot in this chat. Oh yeah, Sam Lightmaster, whoever that is. Does that make sense to you how to go through it? Why do you want to use a for loop when you can just use a while loop? You can do everything in a while loop the same way that you would use a for loop. Why if I mod by 5 for this one? What do you mean what I did here? It kind of sucks that this is delayed. I have to like wait a couple of seconds. No, you are not allowed to use for loops. Because okay, let me show you something, right? So here we have these 3 lines. Okay. The only thing you're saving is these 2 lines. Technically, this middle part is a line as well. Oh, you're correct. That is a typo. I'm an idiot. All right. Now, if I did this in a for loop, okay. What reference I need to run all of this in Studio Code? What do you mean, what reference? Anyway, so here we go. Now I have this for loop that does that. Now, if I want to get this while loop as close as possible to this for loop, I can take out that plus plus and make this a 0 and do minus minus. That would be one way. 0.22, 0.22. Relax. Fine, I'll show you how to do that one. Alright, so there we go. So essentially now I've moved my increments into there. So the only thing is it's the way how you set up your variable that changes between a for loop and a while loop. This is easier to read than a for loop in some cases. In other cases, yes, a for loop would be better. I think depending on how far back you go in the system, you won't always have access to a for loop. Oh, look at that. So many numbers. Fizz buzz, number, fizz, number, number, fizz buzz. Yeah, that looks right. Hmm. Okay. That's because I'm a dumbass. That should be plus plus, not minus minus. I just went backwards. There we go. So it's still not correct, but you get the idea. Let's go make that, I don't know, 50. It might be correct, I don't know. It's late. Oh no, yeah, that is fine. Okay. Alright, so, yeah, I heard noises.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna ask what typo.
Oh, this was an I instead of a 1. Oh, this was a 1 instead of an I. This little thing, yeah. Okay. So for all you need is the right compiler. So all of this is actually done on my Windows machine in Subsystem Linux. But I'm aware of the differences enough that when I did my school projects, I knew what to keep out and look out for to make sure it still works, if that makes sense. It's complicatedly painful at the end of the day. Okay. Anyway, so one of the questions I saw was pre-increments and post-increments. Right? So I'm going to leave it called FizzBuzz because I'm too lazy to change names. Why is tab being weird? Oh, tab is focused. No, thank you. Alright, so we have int of x. I'm going to make it 1. Okay. Now, if I go and I say while minus my plus plus x. Okay. Then I'm just going to do a standard stop quickly. Hmm. Yeah, let's stop. Yeah. Hmm? Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to do an fcput number because you guys really hate me. And I'm going to do a stop. Stop. So if I do that, and do that, you'll see I get the value 2. Okay. So it became 2 once the while loop started running immediately with the pre-increments. Now let me do a ft pachar. And then I'm going to do the same thing but with the post increment. This is just a quick and dirty way to show you the differences. I should probably make x equal 1 again. Two and two. Why is it two and two? Price increment happens in the first loop as well, and thereafter separately. I won't explain a lot. I put it there. Does that show my point better? Yeah, it does. Okay. Again, compilers are being weird. So essentially, right? Yeah. Okay. You saw when I did the plus plus here. Let's keep it to that one, because that one still kind of counts as true because of the stop, and I'm not comparing the value. In the pre-increment, the value of x was set to 2, then stopped, and then the whole thing stopped. Depending on the space one. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so then here for this while, I did the incrementing inside of put number. It would still make a difference on where the plus was, because you saw blah, 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 blah. As you can see, the number that comes out is 1, as compared to if I do it pre-increment, the number would be 2. I'm actually curious, will that work? Nah. Okay, cool. I'd be very sad if it worked. So if I do that, we'll sit with the value of 2 and 2 again. Because before it's used input number, it increments, right? If I do that, it'll only be incremented after it's used. So pre before it's used, post after it's used. I think that's the easiest way to remember. Technically speaking, pre is better. It's lighter on memory to use a prefix on a post. And that's just unfortunately how it is. So for example, if we had, so for x plus plus, we are generally saying we want an integer of new x equals to x, and then we're saying new x is equal to new x plus 1. Then we're saying x is equal to new x again. We're saying return new x. Essentially, that's how post increment works in the whole scheme of things within assembly. And then your just so you know, this is for increments and decrements. It's no difference. It's just I'm using these words. In this case, we are literally saying x minus equals 1. And that's it. It's a single instruction as compared to like 5 instructions, 3, or whatever. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'll leave it there for a few seconds. Okay. Someone asked about the put number thing. No, I forgot to do that. No, switch string. There we go. That is it. Okay. Anyway. Alright, I just want to find out in the chat, is anybody still have a question about pointers? Oh, yeah, the 42 one. How did this question actually get asked again? What's the prototype of it? If someone can get that for me. Or I'll just do a Google. Yeah, Google works. So we can actually all agree that like that is somebody's answer, right? That is somebody on the internet. That was their answer. Um, would you always add the asterisk when missing variables? No. I had a problem where if it's incremented in the statement. Yes, I saw that just now as well. In the statement, it was being strange. But anyway. All right, for this lovely multiple pointed thingies, I am going to say integer x. I need to get the address. Nah, it's just a warning. It's fine, I think. Welcome back. Tickbot. Haha. Why is it tickbot? How many are they exactly the same? Yes, it is. And that one. I think the easiest way to do this test would be to copy all of that, put it there, take one star away. Why not? Why not? Sure, I'll take the value of the value of the value of the value. That should work. So that's exactly the same answer. That you're taking in the number, you're assigning it to the number, and then when you're passing it through into I equals 1, why are you making it 1? There's no limit. It can go on for days. I don't recommend you doing that, but you can. Yeah. The the reason why it's failing is this here. That's what we need to do. Hmm. Okay. So the one reason why it's failing is because multiple ways you can look at this. Because only the pointed value to what's that 7, whatever it is 42. The rest of them not quite yet. So when you want to test it, you have to kind of reference through it properly. So when we took that value and we minus 1 from it, so we have that value of x, you put through the value of x. And we're not getting it back, we're getting back a blank. So if I had to do p, secpop, yeah, because that value does not exist. Theoretically, then why didn't that work? That should have also worked. Okay, if I make it a single pointer, does that work? I don't know that'll work either. No, segbots. You'll see this thing keeps complaining as you go along. Essentially, what it wants is that's one way, I think. Not a very good way. No, not that one. Sorry. That one, I meant to put that over there, minus 1. Just to show you that it is not the signing that's failing. Why is the signing failing? That shouldn't fail. What's failing? Let's LRDB this. See if we can follow through. Soon as the example failed earlier. Now for us, I don't know. Run. Now we wait. Dolphin, what the hell did you? It doesn't like sit very well on Twitch, whatever you wrote.
It's been timed out.
He's spamming the chat.
I don't see him spamming the chat. Or is this on the mod view? Sorry, I was like, shame for Dolphin. um, okay, this is a painful one. So essentially, you are going to want to end up doing that. But I'm not going to use printf, I'll use bit number. For some reason my LRDB is crashing. So what you can do is if LRDB doesn't work, you can use GDB, which is another one. Really? Won't let me quit. Ah, I quit. Alright, anyway. So if I do this whole GCC thing and I run it, it'll segfault, right? We've established that already because it's pointing to null values. So one of the quote-unquote painful ways you can do this, I feel sorry for anyone who does it this way, but unfortunately, it seems like this is going to be the only way. We'll have a B. We'll have a star C. Okay, I'm just going to do this. F. H star I. Then I think I need one more. No, actually, I'm over that already. How many does that put in? think I'm missing just one more. Now what I'll do is I'll do that and then do that. Okay. So now the painful part comes where we have to assign all the values together. So I have to say A is equal to B. To say C is equal. No, right? To say B is equal to A. And then C is equal to B. And then D is equal to E. No. You get the idea, right? We did a whole bunch of these. And the easiest way would be is literally just to do this. So you need to do a whole bunch of this shenanigans. To point it all out, dereference them as you go along, and then please share the video on Slack. Oh, anyway, and then do that, and then we'll get the numbers. It's annoying that you have to do it that way. Can't remember if there was a better way. I'm sure there was, but unfortunately, painful testing it is. Actually, this falls into that other one, variables and when you need them. So in this case, you see I had to create, what's it, 7, 8, 9 variables. I had to create 10 variables. Does pointer 9 to reference of 8? What about it? Dolphin, you need to make English. I don't understand. But yes, anyway. In this case, we had to create 14 million variables in order to get to the answer of what we wanted. The idea is to put it on YouTube after I'm done recording. Yes, it is painful. I agree. So don't use more pointer references than you need to. Okay, anyway. Variables and when to need them. Let's just get this one out of the way. So during your guys' attack rank, I was watching what you guys are doing. It made me sad. In a function that says return only A, right? Or it's a character return A. It doesn't take any variables. And there we go. I have seen this. Alright? It's kind of painful. The function only wants you to return the value A. Okay? So return A. That's it. That's what it wants. Don't make it do more than it needs to do. If it was a function that says loop over two strings and find the first character that matches. Yes, I'm sure that was some of you. For testing your function, yes. I think I did mention that on Slack. You can. You guys don't have a large library like I do for libft, hence being all of these functions. So it's fine. Unless you really want to be that guy, go ahead and write up all of those things every single time you do it. Now, if okay, so yeah, like I said, function of Dominic, what was the exam question that was like that? We had to. Don't worry.
Which the one from the hacker or
No, it's in the exam shell for it.
explain which one? And only a one.
No, well, let's just call it whatever.
Okay.
So I want to get the first matching character in two strings. Alright, so I'm going to go char S1, char S2. So I want to get the first one that matches, okay? So I'm going to know that I need two variables. I'm going to need an I and I'm going to need a J. Now, for some reason, I think I'm going to need a K and I'm going to want to store it as a variable, so I'm going to make it a Z, right? I'm already exceeding my limit here. And then I go and assign my values here, and then I go while S1I, while S2J, if S1I is equal to S2J, and I want to say Z is equal to S1I. Need to reset J. Need to increment I. Need to increment J. No, let's increment J and then I. J and then I. Now you notice I haven't used K yet, right? So K is equal to 12. And then I'm returning Z. And I've gone and I've done this, and this has a few extra things that I don't need, primarily these two. Right? You want to make sure that you only have the variables that you absolutely need. You don't want to go overboard with your variables. As besides the fact that it uses up more memory, granted in today's systems it's not too much of a problem, but it can make your code harder to read because now I'm going to be like, okay, now granted I've called it whatever, okay, but the function name needs to be more clear into what you actually want it to do. So if you want your function to find a first character that matches, then your function name will be find first character that matches. Okay. And now we have these two things here that if I go through and I read what you're going through in your code, and I'm like, okay, cool, you've got three, now you got four variables, and I look through it, I'm like, but you don't need them, right? I see you've assigned the value and you've done this, but it's kind of like weird. Yeah, you can argue this might have a case, right? If you say, it's like, what happens if you don't find it? Okay, that's getting more into other things. You would probably say like return -1, I guess. Then that removes that from it. And then here, you can just return that value. You can do something like that. And then you can get rid of the k-top because you find out it has no use. And then there you go. There you go. And now you've made it using only two variables, two while loops, and two return statements if you get that far. And that's everything I needed. I didn't need more. Right? Another thing is if you know you're going to be working with a small number, like if you know for some reason you're only going to have a string that's like 8 characters, you can use a short to save up on memory. Not entirely necessary to do it that way. Yeah, no, I'm not sending you the Liberty folder. That's a bit wonk. Because it's the first project of the course. It's got a whole bunch of work in there. Anyway. Yeah. Listen to Dolphin. He knows stuff. Okay. Anyway, so you can see we have the while loops, .NET, and that will return to it. One of the things I would say is always keep track of what you're going to be doing. So if you know you only need small numbers, you can use a short. Like I said, in today's systems, it's not a problem. If you're doing embedded systems, microsystem kind of things, I think Justin asked that question when the stream started. You need to be more concerned about what variables you're using because you're trying to save up on memories in your system. No, save up on the memory. Okay, you want to make sure that you have everything available that you want to use. Okay. Returns 139. I don't even know what that means. Okay, cool. Does that make sense on the variable side? Only use what you need. Don't go overboard. If you need to use a single character, use a char. If you need to keep track of an integer, use an int. Okay? But don't use more than you need. Does that make sense, Dominic? Verona?
Sorry, it was unmuted.
Yeah, I think it
Fine?
makes sense.
You don't want to
Do we
use.
have the norm?
Hmm?
Do we have the norm? Because that's the relevance. The
No, the
kind of
norm tells you need to have 5 variables maximum. And then
yeah.
a function can only take in, I think, 4. Yeah, it's something weird like that.
Yeah. So yeah, the normal. If you guys read the PDF for the norm, it will outline that stuff pretty clearly, and that's what you should be following, even in the hacker.
Yeah, so you'll see the norm actually helps you learn how to manage your variables by telling you you're only allowed 5 and telling you a function can only take X amount of parameters. I mean, it would be very easy to create a function that takes 20 parameters, but you're going to get lost very quickly into what the values of those parameters are. So if I had to show you, oh no, what am I doing? A header. So you see, like, there you go. This one takes in 3 parameters. This one takes in 3. This one also takes in 3. No, 2. This one takes in 2. This one takes 4. I think it's the only function that we had that takes 4. And yeah, so on and so forth. You really don't want to use more than that because you can easily start losing track into what a function's parameters actually take unless you use a language like Python, Ruby, Java, and whatnot, where they'll actually tell you what variable needs to go where. In something like C, it's a little bit more tricky, especially if you don't have IDEs to do that for you. So it'll be easier if you don't do that. And I mean, if I had to submit work and Verona had to try and use that work and I gave her a function that takes like 7 parameters, she'd probably slap me. Um,
Definitely.
Dominique would laugh at me and probably try to make it work.
No.
All right, so just simply, the whole point is somebody needs to be able to read your code. So by limiting the amount of noise in it, it's easier to read. Functions are variables that you don't need is noise. Things that you could have gotten away with in limiting the amount of parameters and just creating more functions is noise. That sounds a bit weird, and I'm saying less noise but more functions. Um, a little piece of advice: a function should only do one thing. So if you have a function, and let's say you guys get in the course and I'm on campus and you ask me for help. All right, cheers, Dolphin. I know you've got to go soon. Sorry, this is taking longer. Probably do another stream next week. No, not next week. Next week, you guys aren't here. It's not a 4 week long bootcamp. Tomorrow, maybe continue with some more stuff. I don't know. No, not tomorrow. I'm off for the rest of the week. It'll be on YouTube. All of this will be on YouTube, most likely. Um, your function only needs to do one thing. So in this case, the whatever is finding the character that matches into strings. And then if you have, what else can you have? If you have a function that needs to use other functions, that's fine, but as long as your function only does one thing. So if I go to put string, put string, here we go. This is one of the earlier ones. So my function does exactly that. It puts a string to the terminal, right? It doesn't go and do anything else. Yes, the video will be available for later. Go to your lift. So we'll be able to have this function do just one thing. If I go to put end al, it will also do just one thing. If I go to string clear, it does one thing. So each of my functions do one thing. And when I write a program as a whole of a project that we get, it will use all these functions that only do one thing, which actually helps you to find a point of failure easier than it would be in any other way. What else? I think mostly just need to go over main on how to write a main. I think that's one of the parts that is still missing. I think. Guys, main. What else? Main. Have I covered up most of the topics? I think.
There's a few extra questions. One about
One about.
one about asking the right questions on Google.
Oh, how to stay focused when googling. Okay, I think you were the one who asked that question. Maybe I don't know. How to ask the right question on Google. I think that is something that just comes with practice and knowing exactly what to do. So, for example, I can't Google, I have a segfault, right? I mean, you can, and you'll get a whole bunch of things coming back, but it won't necessarily reflect your code. But what you need to know is what a segfault is. So you can Google what is a segfault, what causes segfaults, and then you'll more or less know what to fix in your code. Um, I would say you guys can go to Stack Overflow, but be careful. Don't post a question there unless you're certain about that you've tried everything to fix it and you can ask your question very clearly. Most of the time, Stack Overflow, people will give you answers that don't help you in the sense that they will laugh at you or tell you that this question isn't useful or something else or something else or something else. They're very mean on Stack Overflow. If you needed to, I don't know how do I say it. Did you guys give them, Dom? Do they have
Yeah.
the link to what's it, C++.net or whatever it is, where they can see what the function is supposed to do? Or,
That's not something I ever gave to them.
you know which website I'm talking about? The one that tells you like in the string header for string copy, this is what it does. Like from
It's like
variables
an
to how,
extended
like a what?
50. It's an extended man for all of 50.
Yeah, but it's more clear than the man page in some cases.
Yeah. Okay, I'll find it now. I'll give it to you guys.
Yeah, because they're going to be doing those kind of things this week, so it will actually help. I just can't. C++ tut or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, it's all about finding the resources and going through it. I don't think there is a clear way for me to say how you should be googling and how you should be doing things.
Things of what you spoke
So
about today.
I really wanted to know how to pass an integer pointer to a pointer and get what's it. Ah, thanks. Okay, cool. It's a lot of dereferencing and address pointing. It's painful. What was that? I had all these folders to go through things specifically. Okay, we did pointers, we did variables, we went over the basics of a loop. So mains. Kinda we did do that, but let's just go with Dube finally signed up. Yeah, it was only like 2 hours later. It's fine. At least now I know next time to get people to do it beforehand. Alright, anyway, so here we have our mains. Let's do a main quickly for a function, even though I've kind of been showing it off as you go along. Blah.c, and then we need our libft header. So now I have a function. Let's go to, convert this back to tabs. Don't know why it's not using tabs. And trim the white space. So don't worry about what I'm doing here in particular. I think you guys are only getting into it tomorrow or something. All right. So now let's say you wanted to test somebody's put string, okay, without having to write it out multiple times. Then within here, you just go and you can call it put string just no, just av1. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to get too much into that. Just know that is the first parameter that you pass to your program. And then what I'll do is I'm going to put it here. I'm going to say just okay. In this case, that way I know for a fact that I am referencing put string as a prototype. Then what I'll do is I'll just create it here because my libft1 doesn't work the same way. You can go unistandard.h, you can go void to string. Yes, typing is hard. You are not wrong. And then I can go hello, and I'll print out hello. What do I need for C programs to compile on my Windows? I recommend Windows Subsystem for Linux, and then go for a Debian install. It will be closer to Mac than what Ubuntu would be. Debian behaves a lot closer than Ubuntu does. You can just Google it. Yeah. Windows Subsystem for Linux, basically, and follow those instructions. I think somebody did make a video, and I shot them down and say no. But it's mostly because of the differences between the systems for the projects. If you guys want to practice, I guess it's fine. But you can also use something called Replit, REPL.IT. That's something like that. You can use that. That'll also work. So yeah, so there we go. Now let's say I'm testing my pitch string. So yeah, I've gone and I've written my pitch string. Yeah, I've written my main with the prototype at the top so I can make sure that it links the files properly. And then I compiled it just by running gcc flah and then ft put string. This one originally segfaulted because there was no parameters, so it was a null, and the while loop freaks out with right if there's a null. And then yeah, so that's how you would test put string in a simpler way. So then what I can do, if you really want to, don't recommend, you can go into I is equal to 0, while, well actually 1. Let's go with 0. 0 is fine. And you can go AB plus plus I. You can go Charles RS. Don't recommend you guys, I don't expect you guys to understand this one. There you go. And it will kind of just join everything together up until the end as one whole string. So generally you would actually want that to have a new line. So like you would have to ft put char new line. There, putchar doesn't exist. Yes, put endal would be a lot better option, but the whole point is I'm testing put string here. Put endal would be like, let's say, question 5, and this is question 2. Put endal is basically put string, but you will always have a new line character at the end. So yeah. And then now I have it all on a new line, all the parameters that I've added. In case someone is wondering about this lovely little line, what it does is it makes sure that the variable here is actually assigned to something that is not null. So it's a way of assigning your variables in a for loop. And you can do it in an if as well to help you save lines. A little bit of tips and tricks. What happened next will shock you, because clickbait. All right, are there any other questions that we can go through that people have posted? Let me just show you quickly. Void ft put endal takes HRS. Essentially, this is ft put string s and then ft put char. Essentially, that is ft put endal. There's nothing more to it. Remember what I said? You can use functions to write a function, but your function needs to do one thing. Oh yeah, the div mod thing. Floor float. Oh yeah, okay. Let me first do floor and float because that's a variable thing. Well, actually, they both work that way. Why do you do this to me? All right. So we have a float, right? And because I'm epic at naming things, I'm going to call it a float. So the float value is 36.6. All right. And now the simplest way to floor a float in C is to simply cast it into a float. So if I'm correct, I should just be able to go floor. And there you go, 36. And you can do the same for a double, anything like that. So what you can also do is I can go if new line, and I can convert that back. But you're going to see I'm going to lose the value. See, now I just have 36.00000. I've lost the actual value, so it's no longer 36.6. So that's the problem with doing that. So you actually lose the value of what it was according to floor, not according to float. Float will still be 36.6, but floor won't hold that value anymore. It does, but in JavaScript it does more funky things because of how JavaScript works. Because remember, not remember, I don't know if you know it, but you should remember that in the other languages there's a math library, and the math library has things like roof, floor, not roof, ceiling, they call it ceiling. And ceiling will round up the number instead of round down the number. But I think ceiling essentially is just doing that. I think that's a simpler way of saying what ceiling is. It does, but you're not allowed to use it. malloc versus calloc. I don't think you guys need to worry about calloc for now. Just malloc. I don't think you guys are allowed to do calloc. But if okay, allocates the requested memory, returns. But yeah, obviously, the difference between here you go. The difference between malloc and calloc is that malloc does not set the memory to 0, so it doesn't be 0 out your memory. So if you had to malloc a random piece of memory, most likely what will happen is you're going to end up with junk value. Not always, but it's likely going to happen. So if you use calloc, you'll be guaranteed that every value is going to be 0. So if you man ASCII 0, it's empty. It's a null terminator. If you don't do that, you have chance of some random values being through there. Sure. The stream started off with one. I haven't forgotten about the div mod thing. Just saying. Just need to get the thingy for it. Okay. So let's say I want my string. Okay, and there's my string. If I do string is equal to hello, return 0. Right, if this works, I'm going to be confused because it shouldn't. Oh, no. Yeah. Why is it not segfaulting? Dominique, am I the only one who's confused as to why this isn't segfaulting when it should?
Nah.
Right? Weird.
Doesn't make sense. You can.
It's a Windows thing.
Is it?
Yes.
You can't assign a string.
Yeah, you're supposed to do string copy to do it. Alright, anyway.
Okay.
Um,
imitate that and then I'll copy.
would that actually give leaks? If I had to reassign it the whole time. Actually, yeah, that would give leaks. I'm sure that would. Anyway. I'm actually curious about that now. That's a later experiment. So generally, like I said, I'm not sure why it's working. It shouldn't. But you would have to do so let's say 13. All right. So malloc returns a void pointer. So what I'm telling it is I want it to be a char star, converting the size of a char times 13. That should actually be a char star as well. To the length of 13. So I'm saying I want 13 characters in the memory block that I'm allocating to make sure it doesn't get overwritten or anything. I'm saying it is reserved. Okay. And then what you can do is you can return that value. So if I just say return string, right? This would be like a bare bone basic malloc. Well, like a allocate string memory kind of thing. Not inherently a best example of it, but it is one. There's like safeguards that you're missing and things. Then what you can do is I'm going to be naughty. Sacrilege, do not do this. Now I've gone and I've B0'd it. Alright. So this is now calloc, essentially. Sets all the values that you've malloc to 0. So normal malloc is basically assigning the memory and returning it to you. Just like I said, the way I did it is basically the same thing except without the safeguards. And then calloc is doing it with zeroing out the memory. And that is essentially the difference. Make sense? I hope. Let's get to ft_div mod. Alright, ft_div mod. Alright. So we have a void ft_div mod. There's integer a, integer b, and integer div, and integer mod. Right? Something like that. And then what you need to do is you need to make sure that b does not equal 0, because otherwise you're going to run into mathematical issues. And then you're going to say div is equal to a divided by b. Yeah? Yes. And then the modulo is going to equal to a mod b. Now, this is going to take up 4 variables. Well, it doesn't need to. Nah, it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to say our div and our mod. And we're going to call it ft_div mod. So I'm going to say 3 and 17. Well, yeah, let's go 17. At the address of div and the address of mod. Right, because we're going to be assigning those values in that function. So we need the address of the values as they are in the scope of main in order to change it. And then if we go percentage %d, so now if I go compile that, run it, apparently 13 by 7 is less than 1, so it'll be 0. Which makes no sense. What did I do wrong with div? Oh yeah, 3 by 17 is less, that is correct. So if I did 17 by 3, that makes more sense, 5.2. So if I, oh, what's the calculator in the terminal again? Dom?
Sorry, expr space, and then space between every expr.
Yeah.
You type in it. Sorry. And then like 3 mod. For example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 5.2, that is correct. So I wanted to do it in floats. All right. Okay, let's do it in a float way. I'll just do it in here. So then I'll say printf and be question mark percentage f. And within here, then we'll say 17f divided by 3f. Mm, 5.67. Yeah, close enough.
As
2/3. Yeah.
whatever pointed out, you can also use BC.
Can you use what?
BC.
That's the one I was looking for. Thank you for whoever said that. So then the modulo, which is 2, then that would be 2 over 3, and then that will get you your remainder. So that's the weirdness of modulo. Does that make sense to whoever asked that? How would you do it without using printf? Use put number. For the string malloc one, for some reason my system isn't segfaulting like it's supposed to when you're trying to add more values than you've assigned, which is weird. I don't know if they changed something in GCC to handle that automatically. I hope not, because that just makes me sad. Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap it up for questions now. That's it.
Um, Vernon, I can.
I'm busy having a look now. I don't see.
There was one long question from Dolphin, but I'll just send it to you on Slack, Julian, and you can
Oh, you
answer
can
me.
send it to me on Discord. There's the
Okay.
workshops question thing.
Yeah, it's there.
Which one? I don't see it in here. Discord. Oh yeah, that wasn't a question. That was the answer to how to do that pointer dereference thing that I did.
He wants to know how you'd show the memory address of pointer number 6 through pointer number 7.
Oh, okay. Let me just grab this entire noise. And then was it how many thingies is it again? One of those. Hey,
7 pointers, I think.
yep. I don't know if I need to remove the spaces. I hope not. Yeah, I do. This is going to be painful. Still not. Oh, yeah, that needs one more then. So if I go and do that, it was 3 and now it's 42, right? Which is correct. So it was 3 and now it's 42. Fantastic. He wanted the memory address, right? Unfortunately, for memory address, you need to do this to get that location. So he wants it for 6, right? I think.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is I'll show 7 as well, and then I'll show 5. There you go. That's how you would show the differences between them. And they're, oddly enough, in this case, 8 apart. Nice. Well, they're in weird spices, but that is how you would show memory address with percentage %p. It is just easier to do it that way. The other way to do it, I can't remember how to do it now. You have to convert it. Mm, if you end up writing your own printf, there's a way to do it. I just can't remember how to do it. It's been a while. Yes, it will be on YouTube. You can go if you need to. Yes, Twitch does not do word wrapping. Oh yeah, no. That will print out hello because you've indexed. And like I said, it's been weird for some reason, and I don't know why. I think they changed something in the GCC compiler over time. I don't know. I might be wrong. If somebody can find out and let me know, it'd be appreciated. Um, is it also part of norm to call your functions with a space between their name and the arguments? What do you mean? Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So you'll see most of the time I've been writing my functions according to the norm. So there's the tab space between there, there's the tab there, and then no space here, no space there, no space there, yeah, tab.
Julian, what did
Yeah.
you ask to test on the different? Sorry, I just missed that while I was typing.
Which one?
You said we must test going to something.
Oh no,
What?
that was the whole thing about assigning a string without
Yeah.
string copy.
So I just tested it. It doesn't output anything, but
It works for me. I'm so confused. Whatever. I don't know. Obviously, something happened in the last year. Maybe the year that is 2020 is shit working when it shouldn't. Okay. Are there any other questions? Well, I'm still here. You guys must ask now, because this is the last time you're gonna hear from me. Oh wait, there was somebody that was asking a question between stack and heap like hours ago. I'm so sorry. Uh, okay, so think about it this way: a stack allocated thing it will live within the lifetime of your program. So for the entire time that your program is running, a stack allocated variable will always be there. So if you had like a million stack allocated variables, you will run into a seg fault because you're exceeding the amount of memory that your program is allowing you to use. Now, this is where memory management comes in. Um, when you're doing things on the heap, whenever you use malloc or pointers, the value sits on the heap, which is what allows you to change it and move it around and have fun with it. Generally, you can't manipulate stack allocated variables too much because it's a single value as well. Pointers, multi-value, well, is an array. There are, like you can have a stack allocated array, right? That is an option. And you can have heap allocated arrays, which is using malloc. These are all available to you and you can use them. It's just depending on how you use them. I'm hoping that answers Dubia's question. I don't know if he had to leave as well. Well, last he said was finally signed up. I don't even know if he's still here. Thanks. Cool.
He recently asked a question. I think he's still here.
I don't know if he's still here. We have to wait like 5 seconds.
Okay.
New question. Will we be judged for having functions that are a little slow as a part of the selection process? No. Optimization is something that you learn over time. Okay, Dolphin asked the question as well. To allocate space for the characters, right? This is why it's wrong to allocate it like that without specifying how many cards. Technically, yeah, you want to make sure that your system knows how much RAM you're using and where you're using it. It's safer. Um, Anything else? Any other questions that we can find? Let me just have a look here. Uh, why can you say string malloc1 and then string hello and put string hello in it? I don't know. That's what I'm saying is weird. So back in my day when I when I did when I did what- when I did C. Oh gosh, I can't even think. Let's say back in my day it was 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, over 2 years, 2.5 years ago. It was when did C like religiously for the school. When I was in my first year. Crap and crap. Um, Things like that would cause seg faults because the memory wasn't allocated properly, or I was trying to assign a massive thing into a smaller part. It's particularly strange because you shouldn't be able to override that string without causing a memory issue. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Well, I'll look into it, and then if you guys make it into the course, we can discuss it at length later. Um, see, somebody was asking about mini GW. The answer is no, I don't recommend using mini GW. It also behaves extremely differently. Um, okay.
I think you've covered most of it.
Oh wait, that reverses the order of characters in a string. Yeah, okay, I can write that quickly. It's actually very simple. Array of string. No, but it would return one, hey. Actually, I'm gonna experiment. I wonder if this would work. It's not gonna work. It needs a value. Okay. I'll leave it as integers. Integer will still work because it's 8 bytes. Okay. So if I had to do that, okay, so just imagine I'm doing ft string length because I don't really want to go into too much of that. Then here we can have you can go while I is less than length divided by 2. Then we can call ft swap on s I and s Then minus I minus 1. Return S. Does that seem like it'll work? I think it'll work. Yeah. We'll printf S new line. This might actually segfault for different reasons, I hope. It's not something you're going to hear often when somebody hopes for a segfault. Hello world. That might be the case about the free space. I don't know. Get the address of those values. So you'll see I'm compiling without flags, so I get segfault. Yeah, kinda got the value there. In case anyone was wondering, I think it was a Cape Town person who asked about string reverse. I think it was in your HackerRank and not in Joburg's one, if I'm not mistaken. But when I did the practice exam, it was something similar to this. Is how I did it. I think the only difference was they gave you the length of the string, and then you had to assign. It was something like int len, then the string, and then int pointer return. And essentially, all you had to do was say ret is equal to len at the end as well. I don't know, it was weird. But the part that's interesting is that this didn't go entirely according to the way it should. Why is that 12? Alright, so I see that. And then do 12 and then at A and just create a random int A. So it was something silly like that. I did that in the wrong spot. It'll be easier to do this. Oh shit. Yeah. And then what you can do is because you'll have the length, right? So you don't need to do that. Just given to you. You can do that. Now it prints out nothing. Yay. Why is that complaining? Implicit declaration of string dupe. Yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Let me see something if I can see what's going on here. Oh no. Cape Town exam is gone. Oh, there we go. Archive test. Cape Town exam. Reverse list. Try. Should still have my solution in here. No, my solution is gone. That's fine. To make it I think we do have it in here as well. Do we? No, we don't. No string reverse. Okay. Essentially what you're doing is, or what I was doing, is I'm swapping the first value with the last value all the way through until we get to the middle. Because if the middle is an uneven number, we'll still end up leaving the middle character alone in this situation. But this is complaining about something else. Well, it's not that it's complaining, it's not behaving the right way for some other reason. Do I have to do a -2 for some reason? No, that gets me back to that. And then that prints out nothing. So if I could take the length -1 will be 11, and then minus the value of I. Why would that not work? Because originally the value will be 0, so it's not the first two. What if I do... halfway there. That needs to be -1 actually. And then if I make that -2. That takes me back to that. Okay. One of the other ways you can do it, because you have the length, is you can go and you can say char star rate, which equals to char star which gives you the same result. What on earth? Oh wait. That should have even compiled.
Do with the flags.
The flags are just gonna break everything.
Wait.
Fine. There's all complaining about mostly that. Go and redo something like that.
Aww.
Wait, string dupe is in strings, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
string dot.
standard lib apparently.
Oh, okay. Oops. Both. I think they're included. Maybe
Alright. Why would it complain? Oh, because that is actually... let's call it hash rate. And return hash rate, and then what we'll do is we'll say rate is equal to length. Alright. Implicit declaration of function string dupe. Is it implicit?
it is. It's in string.h. Is it? Oh, well, it is in string.h. Couple of ways.
Yeah, string.h. Okay. You forget these things once you've written your library because it's all under libft.h, not all these funky things. And it still prints out nothing. A minus 2. There you go. Hello world. There you have reverse string using that way. So why does my FT swap one not work? Well, I think I know why it worked. Thought it didn't work. Alright, so yeah, you see we're gonna get into this whole conversion stuff. So you have to take your characters, convert it into an int. Generally your terminal is going to tell you what's wrong. So as you can see here, it's telling me that hey, my types aren't matching. So you can sit there and you can start doing things with it until you get there. So like here it says that is a problem. Then I think you can do it this way. Convert it to an int and typecast it. Is it? No? No, it's not happy with that one. Yeah, you can play with it. But primarily, I'm just going to remove the flags for this one. Oh gosh, no. I will put the ads back. One of the other ways you can do it is just change the way the function works, making these voids. And then casting them here into characters or integers or whatever. You can play around with it in multiple different ways to get it to work. So if I do that again, oh yeah, I need to remove flags. It's fine. Is it? No, it's not fine. It's not fine. It's fine before incompatible types. Yeah, for all I know, that is what's causing the problem. Okay. I swear I know how to type. And then fails. Why are you failing on me? Oh, that's why. Yay, hello world. No, you don't need to do that. So yeah, that's essentially one way of doing it. Or two ways. Using FT swap, and the other one is doing it with a while loop. Oh, what will the channel be? I will post it on Slack. I will post it on Slack for the channel once all of that's done. What other question do we have? Am I correct to assume that when evaluating values or something like that, the asterisk points to dereference of the point itself instead of how the asterisk usually assigns the pointer? What? Yeah, I see Dom answer that question. Okay, it's fine.
Did I answer right?
That seems fine. Okay, are there any other questions? It's 5 o'clock. I'm sure people want to go home and they're tired of listening to my raspy voice. There's still quite a few people left here.
Are they all participating? Are they passively? Is there anything else that needs?
I think some of them aren't verified yet, so they can't type in chat, or they can. I don't know.
Oh, I'm taking a look on the Christian channel. I don't see. But yeah, there's nothing here. You covered everything.
All right, yeah, I think that has done the stuff. I could not respond because of multitasking between evaluations. All right, that's fine. Okay. So I'm hoping this has been enough to help you guys to some degree. I will do some editing to cut out the first half an hour of waiting for you guys to come in. And then, yeah, I'll post it on Slack once it's done. Probably be tomorrow sometime, even though I'm not supposed to be doing anything near our resources. Okay, enjoy, guys. Good luck. I'm still judging you from a distance, looking at your marks, crying. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.